Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I am so glad you are here, and today I am going to talk about the English we learned was not natural. When we think back to how we learned English in school, many of us feel a mix of memories. We remember the pressure, the heavy books, the long grammar exercises, and the fear of making mistakes. At the time, we believed we were learning the best way. We followed the rules, memorized the answers, and studied hard for exams. But after school ended, something unexpected happened. Many of us still could not speak English confidently. We struggled to have real conversations. We understood the theory, but not the practice. Why? Because the way we were taught was not the way people actually use English in real life. We were taught English like it was a math problem, full of strict rules, correct answers, and little space for creativity or mistakes. But English, like any language, is a living thing. It breathes. It changes. It grows. It is meant for connection, not perfection. The school system often missed this point. It focused too much on correctness and too little on communication. Imagine being taught how to cook only by reading recipes but never allowed to enter a kitchen. That's what English education felt like for many students. We studied, but we didn't practice. We passed tests, but we couldn't hold a conversation. Now that we're older, we understand something important. Real English is not what we learned in the classroom. Real English is alive. It's spoken on the streets, in movies, in songs, in texts between friends. It's full of feeling, not just grammar. So let's take a deeper look at what went wrong, why it happened, and, most importantly, how we can fix it and finally learn to speak English with confidence and joy. When we were in school, many of us learned English in a way that was too focused on rules, tests, and pressure. We thought we had to speak perfectly or not at all. We believed English was only something to pass in exams. But now, we know the truth. Much of what we were taught was not the best way to learn English for real life. In fact, it sometimes made learning English more difficult and less fun. Let's look at why the way we learned English in school might have been wrong, and what we can do about it. 1. Too much grammar, not enough speaking. In many schools, almost every English lesson began with grammar. We opened our books and saw charts about verb tenses. We read about the difference between have been and had been, or how to form questions in the past perfect continuous tense. Our notebooks were full of grammar notes, grammar rules, grammar charts. We practiced grammar every day. We filled in blanks, chose correct answers, and wrote sentences using the passive voice. The teacher would ask, "What is the past participle of go?" and we would answer, "gone." We became grammar experts on paper. But when it came to speaking, we were silent. There were no conversations. There were no chances to talk about our lives, our dreams, our opinions. If we spoke, it was often just one sentence, reading something from the textbook. We didn't learn how to start a conversation or how to keep it going. We didn't know how to respond naturally when someone said, "What do you think?" Learning grammar without speaking is like learning how to swim by reading a book. You know the theory, but you can't float in water. Speaking English is a skill. You have to move your mouth, hear your own voice, learn from your mistakes, and gain confidence. But school made us sit still, memorize rules, and write everything down. Even worse, grammar was taught as the most important part of English. But it's only one part. Yes, grammar helps us be clear, but it should be used while speaking, not instead of speaking. If we want to speak English well, we must speak. We must talk to people, even if we make mistakes. We must have conversations about real life. Grammar will improve naturally when we speak more. But if we only study grammar, we stay silent. 2. They taught us perfect English only. In school, the goal was perfection. Teachers told us to speak in full sentences. Every word had to be correct. Every tense had to match. We learned that making mistakes was bad. So we waited. We thought before we spoke. We sometimes said nothing at all. But outside of school, in the real world, people don't speak like that. Real English is not perfect. It's flexible. People shorten their words. They use slang. They speak with feeling. They say things like, "Wanna grab lunch? I dunno. Lemme check. He ain't coming." We didn't learn this in school. In school, we learned formal English that sounds stiff and unnatural in a casual conversation. We learned how to write essays, not how to joke with a friend. We learned how to read a speech, not how to chat about our day. Also, different countries speak English in different ways. American English is not the same as British English. Indian English, Singaporean English, and Australian English all have their own styles. But we were usually taught just one kind, often the most formal version. So when we heard real English, fast, casual, emotional, we felt lost. We were trained to speak like textbooks. But real life doesn't sound like a textbook. 3. We focused on tests, not communication. In school, every lesson had a goal: prepare for the test. Midterms. Finals. National exams. English competitions. All the pressure was about grades. We were taught how to answer multiple choice questions. We were taught how to write formal essays with introduction, body, and conclusion. We were taught how to summarize a passage or translate a sentence into English. We practiced, reviewed, and took mock tests again and again. But we were not taught how to use English in daily life. We didn't learn how to introduce ourselves naturally. We didn't learn how to give directions, order food, or make small talk. We didn't learn how to use English on the phone, or in an email, or in a job interview. We were good at writing about global warming, but not at saying, "Excuse me, where's the train station?" Real communication is the heart of language. It's about understanding others and being understood. It's about sharing your thoughts and listening with care. But we were trained for tests, not for life. So, many people who got high scores in school cannot hold a simple conversation in English today. That's the result of an exam-focused system. 4. We were afraid of making mistakes. In school, mistakes were punished. Red marks. Lost points. Embarrassment in front of the class. The fear of being wrong made us quiet. We didn't want to raise our hand. We didn't want to try. We were afraid that someone would laugh, or that the teacher would correct us sharply. Even one small mistake felt like a big failure. But this is the opposite of how learning works. Making mistakes is how we grow. It's how babies learn to walk, talk, and eat. They try. They fall. They try again. Slowly, they get better. Language learning is the same. When we speak and make a mistake, it shows we are learning. When someone corrects us kindly, it's a gift. Every mistake is a teacher. But in school, mistakes were shameful. So we stayed silent, and silence is the biggest barrier to learning a language. 5. They didn't teach us how to learn by ourselves. In school, we followed instructions. The teacher told us what to do. We didn't choose the topics. We didn't explore. We just followed the book. When school ended, many people stopped learning. They didn't know how to continue. They thought they needed a classroom, a teacher, a textbook. But today, learning is everywhere. On your phone. On YouTube. In podcasts. In online communities. In games, stories, and songs. You can learn English anytime, anywhere, if you know how. Self-learning is the key to success. It means you take control. You decide what you want to learn. You choose how. You find what works for you. If schools had taught us how to be independent learners, we would still be improving today. But they didn't, so we must teach ourselves now. 6. The English we learned was not natural. In school, the English we learned was clean and correct, but it was not how people speak every day. We learned sentences like, "The cat is under the table." "He goes to the market every Sunday." "My father is a doctor." These are not wrong. But they are boring and unrealistic. They don't help us in real situations. In real life, people say, "Where'd you go? Did you catch the game last night? I'm starving. Let's get something quick." We didn't learn how to use common phrases, jokes, expressions, or casual words. We didn't learn to talk about how we feel or what we think in a natural way. We also didn't learn the rhythm of English, how some words are stressed, and some are said quickly. We didn't learn connected speech, where words run together. So when we heard real conversations, we were confused. The English we learned was too clean. Real English is messy, warm, and full of life. 7. We didn't learn to listen well. Listening is the first step to understanding a language. But in school, listening exercises were very simple. The audio was slow, clear, and repeated. It was made for learners, not for real life. We listened to dialogues like, "Hello. How are you? I am fine. Thank you. And you?" But in real life, people say, "Hey, how's it going? I'm alright, you?" We didn't learn how to understand different accents, British, American, Australian, Indian. We didn't learn how to follow fast speech, or how to understand when people talk over each other. So when we watched movies or talked to native speakers, we felt lost. We couldn't catch the words. We couldn't follow the meaning. To fix this, we need to listen more. To music, to podcasts, to real voices. We must train our ears the way athletes train their muscles, with practice and patience. 8. We didn't learn the power of enjoyment. In school, English felt like a job. It was part of the timetable. We had to do homework. We had to study for exams. There was pressure. But learning a language can be joyful. It can be a door to movies, music, friends, travel, and new ideas. It can be fun. When we enjoy learning, we remember better. Our brain is happier. We become more curious. We want to learn more. But school didn't show us that. It made English serious and heavy. It forgot the joy. So now, we must find it ourselves. We must learn through things we love, stories, songs, conversations. That's how real learning happens. So, what can we do now? We don't have to follow the old way. We can start again. We can learn English our way. Speak every day, even a little. Listen to real English every day. Don't worry about mistakes. Use English to connect, not to be perfect. Make it fun. Make it personal. Keep going. One step every day. Conclusion: rewrite your English story. Now that we've seen all the things that went wrong with how English was taught to us, we can take a deep breath and say, it's okay. It wasn't our fault. We were doing our best with the tools we had. But now, we have new tools. And more importantly, we have a new mindset. We don't have to chase perfection anymore. We don't need to feel ashamed of our mistakes. We don't have to sound like a textbook. We are allowed to speak English like real people, with real emotions, real mistakes, and real progress. Think of English not as a subject, but as a key. A key that can open doors to travel, work, friendships, and knowledge. A key that helps you express your thoughts, your dreams, and your story to the world. That's the real purpose of language. So from this moment forward, let's change the way we learn. Let's speak more. Listen more. Laugh more. Let's stop fearing grammar and start using English in real situations. Let's choose podcasts over worksheets, conversations over quizzes, and confidence over fear. And if someone tells you that your English is not good enough, smile, 'cause you're learning. You're trying. And every time you open your mouth to speak, you're doing something amazing. They taught us wrong. But now, we can teach ourselves right. And that is a beautiful thing. Your English journey is just beginning. And this time, it's going to be real, fun, and full of life. The story is over. Please support us by subscribing and liking to follow our channel. Your support means a lot to us. I hope you learned something new today. See you next time. Thanks for watching.